deux candidats, là, tout de suite.
Hi everyone, I'm Etienne, I'm in Second A, and today I'll be talking about a general question, what's being free? So what's being free? If you ask this question to someone and ask him to answer immediately without really thinking about it, the typical answer would be, being free is doing whatever you want without any restriction. At first sight, it seems to be correct. But let's focus a bit on that sentence and we will soon realize that it's not correct, or at least impossible if we want everybody to be free. If freedom was unrestricted, only a very few people would actually be free, because there will always be someone that would infringe the other's freedom, and he would have the right to do it since he has no restriction. And here comes the main problem. An unlimited freedom would go against equality and morals. A society where everyone can do anything he wants is not livable. Indeed, if everyone does what he wants, knowing that people have different desires, those desires will inevitably be in conflict with each other. So in that kind of society, it is the lowest, strongest which wins out. There is no more security, and without security, there is no more freedom. Or at least not for everyone. To avoid this situation, we need to set limits to freedom in order to make it compatible with equality and justice. It is in a way a relative freedom, a sort of compromise that aims to allow us to live together in the community. So if we look again at our first sentence, we now see that there's something missing. We have to add a condition to the sentence. Something like, we have to, being free is doing whatever you want, as long as, or accept something. That's exactly the meaning of the fourth article of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. Liberty consists of being able to do anything which does not harm the others. Indeed, if everybody wondered, am I infringing the other's freedom before acting, there would be much less problems. But obviously, a simple saying is not enough for people to live together in the community. We definitely need limits. But this raises questions. Who is legitimate to set those limits? And how can those limits fit everybody? Well, let's assume that a man is free when he is his own ruler. Even if there are limits, he is still free if he has chosen those limits and agreed with them. So if a free man is a man who obeys his own rules, then law and freedom are not incompatible, as long as the author of the law is also the one who respects the law. According to that, democracy is the society of freedom par excellence, since we just delegate our power, but through our representatives, we are the ones who decide. So if you live in a democracy, like in France, the law is no longer an obstacle to freedom, but it becomes the guarantor of the freedom, since it prevents our rights from being infringed. So that's it. You live in a democracy, I live in a democracy, we all live in a democracy. So we are all free. Or at least we can be free. Because more than the law, what can be an obstacle to freedom is the society itself. The problem with our societies is that we are all submitted to a conventional conditioning. Our way of thinking, our judgment, our choices, our taste, all of that is largely influenced or even controlled by the society. Does it prevent us from being free? For me, the answer is yes. Yes, conditioning and freedom don't work well together. If we assume that freedom is the result of a personal thinking, then freedom is in a way proper to each of us. Therefore, if our way of thinking is conditioned and generalized by the society, we are not actually free. Please be careful, I'm not calling for a bloody revolution or against the society or something. I'm just saying that we need to decondition ourselves and to get out of a generalized system and think by ourselves. Just by refusing to remain conditioned, we are becoming free. Rousseau said, anyone who wants to be free is indeed free. Yes, freedom starts with opposition, but we don't necessarily have to break the rules, use force, or whatever. We just, opposition has nothing to do with violence, refusal, or marginalization. It only means that we have to separate ourselves from the others, to stand apart and assert ourselves. There's a saying that I like very much. It is, a free soul is an independent soul. It's a soul that doesn't follow anything or anybody, like a sheep. So that means a man becomes free when he doesn't need any guide to show him the way to follow, but knows exactly which way he wants to follow. There are different ways we can follow, and we have to choose among them. That's what Salle said when he said, being free is not being able to do what we want, but wanting what we can. It consists of being able to have the choice to do or not to do what is allowed by the society. So my conclusion is, here in democracy, we are lucky enough to be able to become free. But freedom mustn't be taken for granted. It has to be conquered, and firstly by thinking. Freedom of thought is the only freedom that will never be taken away from you, even in a democratic system. So, anyway, freedom of thought is the first level before the access to any other levels of freedom. So use it. Thanks for listening.